Reddit, there is a well-known saying that goes always give the hardest job to the laziest person because they will find the easiest way to do it. What is the best real-life example to this you have seen? I once was a temp at a tiny office on a construction site in around 2003. I was only there for one day while the regular person was on some training. They sat me down and told me that I just needed to copy all these numbers from one program to another. So I selected them, hit Ctrl-C and Ctrl-V. They stared at me. Turns out about 60% of this woman's time had been spent manually typing numbers from one place to another. Had a manager that would manually delete every email from his work inbox. I'll never forget the look he gave me when I clicked the Select All button that was clearly visible the entire time. Wait, what? Yes, he didn't know there was a Select All function. He didn't even know you could select more than one to be deleted at a time. Some people know just enough to get by. I find that's how I am more and more sadly. Hey, is there, always, a Select All? I work in finance at a large multinational corporation. I feel like a big part of our job is to just stop doing things and wait to see who complains. If someone complains, we keep doing it. If silence, then we call it a controlled drop and put it on our performance review for creating efficiencies. Years ago I was completing a daily report that was saved on the shared drive, that 4 different people needed. I skipped it 1 week and no one said anything. Ditto on the second week. Finally, I put a message on the report that said if you need this report, please contact the Blue Witch, and I never touched the report again. We were recently cleaning out the shared drive, and I found that report. 2013 was the last time I input anything. We do the screen test. If something sounds useless, looks useless, and smells useless, we reversibly disconnect, hide, or disable it. If someone, rarely, screams, we restore it. Nothing required for safety or compliance, and everything is backed up to offline disk. Servers have been turned off instead of replaced. They'll sit for a while then get melted down. I'm sure the big guys do the same thing with entire racks or even data centers. I worked in a CNC shop. There would be a pile of jobs that needed to be done for the month. Some took days to run while others were generally quick. The record for jobs done in one day was 8. What I did was look through all the jobs and organize them by setup. Meaning, every job has a setup time. Can take an hour to get all the tooling together, setting up the cutting table, and setting the part square to the table so the machine can gauge where the part is, so when I insert the code into the machine it can run flawlessly and drill, mill, tap whatever within a literally hair measurement. For every single job. Majority of parts use standard tooling. And I have automatic tool changing with 20 pockets. Long story short, I figured out how to line up the jobs so they all have the same setup. Blew the record out of the water with 30 jobs done in one day. Saving the company tens of thousands in work hours. All because I didn't feel like doing all the setups that day. There is actually a field of study about optimizing work setup efficiently. That company could probably use an industrial engineer. I worked a summer at a mortgage company as an assistant to the underwriters. My only job was printing documents and then hole punching them to put in folders. They had a super fancy Xerox printer that basically did my entire job for me, but the underwriters at this company didn't know how to click through printer settings to make the machine hole punch as it was being printed. I showed them how to do it, and they resisted it super hard, like they didn't trust it. So I got to keep my job, but what was supposed to take me all day literally took me about 20 to 30 minutes first thing in the morning. So they started assigning me real tasks, and even offered to keep me on to eventually become an underwriter, too. Because I was so sharp, i.e. I knew how to use the very expensive printer they already had. I was just about to start grad school, so I had to politely decline. But I'm pretty sure they didn't hire someone to replace me when I left. Doctor, they had a printer that already did my job for me but didn't know how to use it. I showed them. I have a coworker who did some temp work after college. One of her jobs was at some sort of small bank or financial institution, and her whole job was to keep this huge day planner of everyone's meetings and run around reminding people when their meetings were. She tried showing them that they could just use Google Calendars, but they just wouldn't do it for some reason. This happened in 2019. Maybe not the most impressive story here, but I thought it was a great sidestep of effort nonetheless. Coworker of mine had to get rid of a smaller junk fiberglass boat with no trailer. Our other coworkers are all telling him how much time and money he's going to need to spend to get rid of it, and he's just saying, "Oh, is that so?" He took off one day, and sat down on his lawn with a cooler of beer. That day was garbage day. Inevitably, the trash guys roll up. He hands each of them a cold beer, and says, "Hey boys, got $50 for each of you if you help me out real quick." They fed the entire 12 feet boat into the packer, crushing 2 feet at a time. Growing up we didn't have large stuff pickup, mattresses, old appliances, that sort of thing, so anytime my dad needed something gone like that, he'd sit it by the trash can, and on trash day he'd have me put a 6-pack on the pile while I waited for the school bus, as the trash ran within minutes of the bus. It never failed, whatever was piled up was gone. I just put a for sale sign on it and somebody will steal it. I used to process HSA claims, around 10 plus years ago. One system we had to use back then was an old as hell terminal program that took 4 line items per page, that's it. For a usual claim, no big deal, not too hard to keep track of things over 2 or 3 pages. For a longer claim, most fit on one. However, we had the dreaded shoebox claims. This was the person who saved up every receipt all year in a metaphorical shoebox, and sent everything in, once a year, to empty their account. We hated them. Dozens or hundreds of line items totaling thousands of dollars. Just because you only have $500 in your HSA doesn't mean we get to stop there. If you sent in $4,000 in receipts, I gotta account for it all. Totally killed your numbers for the day, and they tracked claims per hour religiously. The main issue was double checking that everything added up right when you were done entering it. At 4 items a page it took forever to tally. So, I made an Excel sheet. It was laid out so I could enter every single line, then run a macro that would calculate the needed totals, and dump all the text to a text file formatted exactly so I could select 4 items at a time, and paste them directly into the terminal window from the default starting cursor position, and every field would fill in automatically. Copy, paste, next, copy, paste, next, copy, paste, next, etc. etc. It easily halved my entry times, with way less work. Finding any typos was much easier. I just had to look at one column organized sheet instead of scrolling through God knows how many pages of terminal text. It was great. I showed it to my manager so the rest of my team could use it. She was horrified I would use something like that, as no human was double checking as they went along. This despite demonstrable improvements to my error rates on large claims after I started using it. She ordered me to stop using it and forbid anyone in her team from automating any part of their job at all. I kept using it for all of the 2 months I stayed there after that. I had some of the highest claim per hour numbers and lowest error rates on her team. I never developed any more tools for them. Fuck her. I used to have to make 2 contracts for every person I brought on a traveling training team. I said 2 contracts was stupid and made them into 1, sent it to our lawyers, and they approved it. Still took me too goddamn long to update each contract with different names, pay rates, and dates. Went on r/Excel and found out how to make a mailer list, and hours of work takes me 10 minutes. I didn't tell anyone this though, so I just take my time. Then I had to make floor maps for restaurants to send to the company that puts them into our scheduling program. Well, all of our restaurants are cookie cutter, so I just use Paint to piece them together rather than make all of them each time. I'm fucking Picasso with Microsoft Paint. Then they wanted me to use Excel to keep track of training teams. One of my coworkers used Smartsheet and loves to teach people things. So I jump on Smartsheet with her and she shows me around. Way easier and easier publishing it so that people can see the teams but not mess up any info. Using forms to not have to ask them 30 questions that auto-populate my Smartsheet, sharing it with payroll so they never have to reach out to me, templates on Outlook, tons of stuff. I basically took a lot of my job, said fuck that there has to be an easier way, asked on Reddit or just Googled things, and spent maybe an hour learning something that will save me many hours in the future. I always tell people to just Google things. They say I don't know what to Google, and I say whatever your problem is, just Google it the exact same way you'd say it to me. Then when they Google Excel thing that makes this do that, they are shocked that they find their answer. I'm fucking Picasso with Microsoft Paint. This speaks to me. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you have a similar story, share it in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe for more. Have a great day, or night.